Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we try to make sense of the wild world of business filings. And boy, do we have a doozy today. So ARVANA Inc. just dropped an amended quarterly report, and it's basically a big oops, we need to fix some things announcement. This isn't just a small correction, it's a full restatement, meaning their earlier financial picture was quite a bit off. They're admitting to errors in how they handled website costs, professional fees, and stock-based compensation. So basically the numbers you saw before, you can't trust them anymore. Investors need to disregard the old report entirely. This is a pretty serious situation for any company. First, let's look at the basic facts. ARVANA is a Nevada-based company. They acquired a fishing charter business called Down to Fish Charters, or D2F, back in February 2023. So their business now involves fishing trips and leasing out marine equipment, while also exploring other business opportunities like real estate development. It's a bit of a mixed bag. Let's dive into the numbers, because that's where things get really interesting, especially with this restatement. Looking at the balance sheet for March 31, 2024, the company had about $321,559 in assets. That might seem small, but it's up from about $216,549 at the end of 2023. Most of their assets are tied up in property and equipment, over $150,000 of it. Now, on the other side of the coin, their liabilities, this is where the restatement really shows its impact. At March 31, 2024, their total liabilities were around $1.3 million. That's a big number for a company this size. What's concerning is their stockholders' deficit. That's basically a fancy way of saying they have way more liabilities than assets, leading to a negative net worth. As of March 31, 2024, this deficit was over $1 million. This indicates a really tough financial spot. Let's check out the income statement. For the first 3 months of 2024, ARVANA reported revenue of about $12,000. That's a slight increase from the $8,000 they reported in the same period of 2023. Their cost of services was around $4,623, which sounds good, but it doesn't put them in the black. Their gross profit, which is the revenue minus the direct cost, was a slim $7,379 for the first quarter of 2024. Last year it was even less, just under $1,900. So while they are making more gross profit, it's still not a lot. Now for the really big expense category, operating expenses. These came in at around $113,848.06 in early 2023. This is a decrease from the $148,600 in early 2023. They mention this decrease is partly due to lower general administrative costs. However, they expect these operating expenses to go up in the future as they try to grow. All of this leads to a net loss. For the first 3 months of 2024, ARVANA reported a net loss of $123,714. This is a huge improvement from the massive $928,400 2023. So they're losing less money, which is a positive sign, but they are still losing money. Looking at the statement of stockholders' deficit, it really hammers home the financial struggles. For the 3 months ended March 31, 2023, their deficit was about $749,000. By March 31, 24, it had grown to over $1 million. This worsening deficit, despite losses shrinking, is a clear signal of their precarious financial health. Let's check the cash flow statement to see where the money is actually going. For the first quarter of 2024, they used $67,619 in cash from their operating activities. This is more than the $44,115 they used in the same period of 2023. This means their core business operations are burning more cash, even though their reported net loss is smaller. On the flip side, they brought in a good chunk of cash from financing activities, $179,341 in the first 3 months of 2024. This was mainly from receiving money through related party notes payable, which is basically debt from people connected to the company. They are clearly relying on borrowed money to keep the lights on. Now, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, the restatement. This is what makes this filing unique. They had to change their numbers because they messed up on accounting for website development costs, professional fees, and stock-based compensation. For example, their accounts payable number was reduced by $83,523. This was due to corrections in how they accounted for professional fees and other expenses, plus reclassifying some amounts to related party payables. And get this, the current portion of their related party notes payable went from $300,000 down to zero. This is because they agreed with the lenders to push out the due dates, moving it from a short-term debt to a long-term debt. This is a common maneuver when a company is struggling to pay immediate debts. Because of these date changes, their Long-term relate party notes payable actually increased by over $1 million to about $1.06 million. This shows a significant reliance on debt from insiders. Looking back at their revenue, the $12,000 reported as lease revenue for the first quarter of 2024 is actually a reclassification. They previously had this as lease income under other expenses, but now they're correctly showing it as revenue since it's a core part of their business. The restatements also impacted stock-based compensation. They found that some awards weren't properly expensed, leading to an understatement of about $23,000 in cumulative stock-based compensation costs. This is another example of accounting missteps. The company itself acknowledges in its report that these financial issues raise substantial doubt about the company's ability to continue as a going concern. This is a very serious statement. It means that without new funding, they might not be able to stay in business for the next year. They've had significant losses since they started, and they currently have no firm commitments for future funding. Their plan is to boost marketing for their fishing charter business and maybe get into dolphin tours. But this requires capital for a new vessel. The problem is cost, and they don't have a guarantee of getting that financing. If they can't get more customers on each trip, they'll just keep doing more fishing charters to try and make more money. What's the story here? ARVANA is in a tough spot. They're operating a small fishing charter business, but it's not generating enough cash to cover its expenses, leading to consistent losses and a growing deficit. Their reliance on debt, especially from related parties, is a major red flag. The restatement of their financial reports highlights significant accounting errors, which erodes confidence in their financial reporting. While they are losing less money year over year, as shown in their net loss figures, they are burning more cash from operations. Without new funding sources, their future looks very uncertain. They're essentially trying to grow a business that's currently not profitable and is heavily dependent on external financing, which they don't have secured. It's a classic case of needing more money to make money. But the current financial health makes attracting that money extremely difficult. It's also important to note that both the CEO and CFO have signed off on these restated financials. This means they are formally attesting to the accuracy of this amended report, acknowledging the previous errors and confirming the now corrected figures. This is a sign of at least trying to get their books in order, though the underlying business challenges remain. And finally, those standard certifications at the end of an SEC filing, all signed with the July 2025 date, confirming they've reviewed everything and believe it to be accurate. Alright, that's our deep dive into ARVANA's restated quarterly report. It paints a picture of a company struggling to find its footing, with significant financial hurdles and a pressing need for capital. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for ARVANA's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives into corporate filings. Don't forget to check out our Discord community linked in the description below for more discussions. Thanks for watching. See you next time.